For anyone coming into both my own stream and also Nos Syndrome stream, I'm Anamana. We've also got Nos Syndrome and also Black to Basics. I hope we're all doing well today.
Doing all set, thanks.
Doing pretty good.
Awesome.
I kind of like spaced out for half a second. It was crazy.
It's so weird trying to sync everything up, eh?
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is, I guess we'll start out with who we are and what content we make. Like we all obviously make PSO2 content, but do we want to start with Black?
Sure. I'm Black from Black to Basics, and I make shorter than average informational videos that usually cover one specific subject. I try to keep them unopinionated, as I believe everyone needs to understand the basics before forming an opinion. And once you break everything down, PSO2 is a bit more black and white than you'd think. And I think if everyone is decently informed, there'll be a lot less confusion and disagreements, and it's kind of what I do.
Yep. Sounds good. I've always seen you as like a no-nonsense PSO2 person.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say, to the point, but I just make things just as long as they have to be.
Yep. What about you, Nos?
I'm Nos. I do something very similar to Black. I don't know exactly what's super different. I know that I just go into kind of mixing details, a lot of editing, and my own opinions in the whole mix. So I guess it's kind of the same but different. But I've been doing YouTube for a long time. This is not my first channel, by the way. And also I'd like to take this moment to say hello to everybody in my stream, because I've just been quiet the entire time. And yes, I do love your face,
love their face?
BM3.
Did you see like a few videos ago I actually ended with love your face like Nos says?
Who?
I actually said like on the ending of one of my videos, instead of saying my usual, hope you enjoy your day, I said, just like Nos says, love your face.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
I was going to see it. I think maybe one person caught on it.
Good stuff. And what about you, Mana? What do you do?
I mean, I've always focused on beginners content. I always get people like kind of judging me on my gear and stuff, and it's like, well, I don't play at that level. And the streams and content is always focused on getting people into the game. Obviously, my content is a lot more long form. I tend to crutch pretty hard on the content list you can do on YouTube where they can skip between stuff. But yeah, my main goal is to help people get into the game, understand it, and go into every video having all the information they need in the video so they don't have to jump between videos if they don't have to, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's important
That
too
makes
with PSO2, because the game's really bad at telling you what to do, and turns out that once you know what you're doing, it's not that hard. It's pretty simple, but you just have to figure out how to do it, right?
Yeah, it's definitely that whole mindset of doing something over and over until it kind of sticks.
Yep.
Definitely.
All right. What about where we started with Phantasy Star in general? I'll get Nos to start first off.
Sure. My adventure with PSO actually was Phantasy Star Online on the GameCube specifically. I didn't really play online before much later. I believe the first time I went online with the game, the servers had been discontinued already. But basically what happened is I had my best friend back in the day. He lived like 5 minutes away from my place. I could just walk there, and we spent a lot of evenings together. And one day I showed up at his house, and he was playing this brand new game, and he was super excited because PSO on the GameCube had couch co-op. You could play split screen, and he wanted me to try it, so we tried, and immediately I fell in love with it. The first PSO is one of my favorite games ever made, even though like looking at it nowadays, I can tell you like it would be pretty hard to get into as someone new to the franchise. But yeah, I basically started with PSO1, and then I started consuming everything Phantasy Star ever made. Like I played a lot of Episode 3, which was a card game for some reason. I went back and played the classics on Genesis and Master System. And I've been a huge fan of PSO ever since.
It's super interesting. I get so many people saying, like, a lot of people are under the assumption that PSO on GameCube and Xbox was the first iteration of it. Mm-hmm. I actually started tinkering with a Dreamcast emulator recently, and I loaded up PSO1, and the interface is terrible on the very first iteration of it.
Oh, it's so bad on the Dreamcast. I never really played the Dreamcast version. I've seen screenshots and footage of it. It was so bad. Like, I never realized the amount of work they made between the Dreamcast version and the GameCube version. It's not a straight port. Like, a lot of the weapons were redesigned, the interface is changed. Even some sound effects are different.
Yeah. What about you, Black?
Oh, it's tough to follow. Mine's much more subtle.
Yeah.
But I also started on the GameCube. I think I wasn't that old at the time, so I never quite fully understood it. But I played it a little bit, but I was more into stuff like Zelda and Smash and Devil May Cry at the time. But then like a decade later, when it came to Japan, I started on the JP version like a little less than a year after it came out there, and I've been going strong since, so off and on.
Yep. Oh, for PSO2, was it? For that one?
Yes.
Yeah. I started with... So, I guess I'm pretty old. I'm like 38, so... back in like when I was in school, it was either you were a Sega kid or you were a Nintendo kid, and every school I went to was a Nintendo one, so I didn't really... I had friends that had Sega systems, and they talked about Phantasy Star. It always looked pretty cool, but I just didn't have access to it until the Dreamcast was like kind of well ahead of any other console. It was really good. I eventually got PSO1 for that, and for some reason, EB Games didn't give me the right license code, so I couldn't play it online. So I played it up until Dark Files on normal, and then took it back. And then I think it was on PC with version 2's private servers. I used to play that online with Shithack. And then I imported the GameCube version because we didn't get that here, so I played that offline. And then Blueburst, I played that with the beta and the Japanese version, and then eventually the US version. I played through Phantasy Star Universe up until that's closure. And then PSO2 has kind of been a love-hate thing up until recently because it's been Japan only. So I played that like for a week or a month or two here and there, but I didn't really learn the game until like a month or two before the North American release, and then I've just been pretty hardcore with it.
Yeah, kind of same to be honest. Like, and I just realized we played on the same private server for probably for a long time. Like, I played Blueburst on Stack or whatever, what it's called, for at least 3 years.
Well, I played version 2. This would have been... I actually designed the website for it. If you remember the old Blue website.
Yeah.
That was my design with another guy called Aileron Ives.
Wow.
So I actually put that... I did the coding for it, and he did the artwork on it. But I played version 2, and I think I've mostly played Blueburst with Ephinia, if I can remember.
I installed Ephinia recently. I've started fresh on it like a month ago or so. Been fun.
Yeah, it's good. I'm kind of looking forward to as well Clementine getting updated to go back and like I would love if they just made like a HD remaster of Phantasy Star Online and Phantasy Star Universe with at the very least like ad hoc multiplayer.
I'd be all over that, honestly.
Throw it on Steam.
Yeah. Oh my god, it'd be so good. But yeah, that's basically me in terms of it. What about like... So that's the experience I've had with Japanese, and I think someone else said it's about the same. What about... So it came out like 8 years ago, right, in Japan. I vaguely remember the episode 1 stuff, and I had some weird thing with ARX missions where they tied the story into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how far back did you guys really spend a lot of your time playing the Japanese version?
Let's see. I started, so a little less than a year after it came out, and what you're talking about was called Matterboards. It's kind of like a big bingo where you have to do certain things to fill it out to get to a certain area. I might be misremembering it a little bit, but that was mostly it.
Yeah,
but that was around for a few years.
It was garbage.
But, yeah, it was terrible.
I don't even remember like when that first came out. Like, I have such vague memories of the Matterboard. I feel like I don't remember that until maybe when episode 4 came out and it was still a part of it. Because I know episode 4 really changes the story flow. It had like a more advanced Matterboard or something like that.
I mostly tried to avoid it at all costs.
Same.
Shout out to ArcSlayer because they've always been the OGs with getting that working. But I feel like even though it was getting worked on pretty much the whole time ever since PSO's been out, I've always had this thing in the back of my mind where it hasn't felt 100% for me to be playing on Japanese servers, and I don't know the actual correlation of why that reasoning is.
Well, we weren't supposed to be playing over there first off, and there was a time where they purged a lot of people and put up IP blocks. We had to get around that. Not saying you should do that, but we did it, and
Yep.
eventually they just let up on that for a couple different reasons, and so I think it's a lot of reasons why people were worried about starting was because of that,
Mhm.
being blocked and whatnot.
Yeah, I was there.
I think I might have missed.
I was there on PSO2 like day one. I created an account and I remember playing a little bit of it, but I couldn't get into it because I was like, this is gonna come out eventually, right?
Yeah.
So I played enough to have an idea of how it played, and then I just kind of moved on because I was like, I don't want to invest too much time in it because it's announced for next year in North America. So I'm just gonna leave it there. I've had my fill, and then I waited for 4 or 5 years before I gave up on the Western release and
Yep.
went full on with the Japanese version.
Pretty much the same.
Isn't it interesting? There was that video that Major Lee put out saying it's never coming to the West, and now it's just like that video has aged terribly.
Yep.
I feel like the times I came back and played it the most was like obviously that first episode 1 to 3 period. That just all chunks together for me. But I played a bit of episode 4. I remember the Japanese stuff being really weird, and I definitely played during the Yamato, the urgent quest we're going to get with that one. And then I came back for a month in episode 5, and it was during like Halloween where they had the Enchanted Forest event happening. And then the last time, just before the North American release came out, I was playing a bit of episode 6.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as content goes, yeah, I mean, it's all like a blur to me now because the first few years I was really casual because if you just think of everything we have up until now in NA, that took like 3 to 4 years to get. So it was like nothing.
Yep.
So I'd come back, do a little bit of the new content because they always had catch-up events. We learned everything there was new to learn, then leave for a few months and repeat the process. And then once like episode 4 and 5 came out, it was still really slow, but like it seemed to pick up a little bit. That's when we started getting more stuff. But even 4 and 5 and 6 is all blurred to me. It's like all in one big blob.
I mean, like the additions are pretty small, and like compared to what we're getting now, we're gonna get big chunks of content. It was just kind of, I guess, kind of like folding clothes, where you're just putting another T-shirt on the pile, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of same for me. I was so on and off with PSO2 JP that I don't even know when stuff came out and from which episode it is. Like, I played for a bit in episode 1. I remember not liking a lot of the systems, like old type grinding. That was freaking garbage.
Yep.
Came back for during episode 4, then took another break, and then I came back at the end of episode 5, I think. Played a few months there, stopped again, and then before the NA version came out, I came back just to kind of like start making content. And I played for like 2 or 3 months in that period. And ever since
I feel
NA
like
came out, I uninstalled the JP actually.
Yeah, I feel like I was pretty much the same. Like, I was covering Destiny before this, and I had made a few videos of PSO2 back in like 2017, but I never really stuck with it until recently. And I was just of the mindset, it's like, with the closed beta coming out, and between the lead up between closed beta and the North American version going into open beta, was the best time to play Japanese and like kind of learn everything and start making guides for it, you know, to get that like that SEO currency kind of building up, if that makes
Seemed
sense.
to work well. Yeah.
And I feel like both of you kind of did that to a degree as well, right?
Yeah, kind of. Be lying if I said no.
I was moving around
said-
windows.
It's all good. I said basically the period between the closed and open beta for North America was the best time for people like us to get content out.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, most of my audience came from the closed beta, well, not closed beta, but open beta for me, because I didn't have an
I'd say
Xbox.
it's
yeah.
the same.
Yeah, I waited for like the first beta to come out. People got a taste. I was able to look at a lot of the streams, match up a lot of the new names because I didn't want to put out any more information with like, I didn't want to have to keep saying pending name changes and everything. So luckily I was able to watch lots of people stream the closed beta to get a lot of the new names and make all my new guides and pumped them out right before or right at open beta and launch. And it worked out pretty well, but it really spiked after the PC launch for me.
Yeah, PC launched had a lot of traffic coming. It slowed down considerably recently, but it's to be expected.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It feels like it's like, I would attribute it to the honeymoon period's over and also the Windows launch errors, I guess.
Yeah.
How do we feel it's rolled out so far?
Well,
Weird.
it gets into the, what you just mentioned a little bit,
Mm,
but releasing between, or on the Windows Store, if you don't mind, maybe go first, I guess. I think they waited way too long between the PC and Xbox launch, but at the same time, they didn't do any stress testing for the PC version at all.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird. I mean, originally, didn't they say they wanted to have the Xbox version out for a while just to make sure it was running properly? But they didn't do that for the PC. I thought it was weird.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember.
But besides that, I mean, as far as the content goes, I mean, I was really glad to find out we had all the same class and PA balancing the Japanese version had. It was really easy for me to transition over, and made the game much more fluid for everyone, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we had stuff like Summoner, which we shouldn't even have in this episode, but those additions made it really nice for. It's just more content, right, for this release. So I think it was released pretty well for now, and we got new weapons introduced slowly, like the Slave, Nemesis, and Ray. So it's something along the way till we get 4. So I think they actually did okay. I was expecting a lot less, actually.
When I'm thinking about it, there was so much cosmetic content they needed to slowly roll out, and it would have been really awkward if they had just dropped it at episode 6, but were slowly releasing like episode 1, 2, and 3 content, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. I was kind of expecting once the open beta launched that we would get episode 6, but at the same time, we didn't even have AC content until, what was it, like open beta? There wasn't any monetization at all.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's right.
Honestly, I mostly feel like the release, like the content we have is great so far because we have a lot more than I thought we would get on release or whatever I was expecting. I didn't expect episode 6 on launch. That made no sense to me. There was too much to catch up on, and the way like urgent quests work and everything, you don't want to roll out into episode 6 and then having urgent quests from episode 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
The only thing that bothers me is that everything's out of order. Like, we're getting weapons from the end of episode 4. We're getting classes from episode 4, but episode 4 is coming out next month.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly confusing. It's mostly confusing.
And then we've got like loot tables that are kind of a little bit different, with Slave Nemesis dropping already. Even apparently the Frost set, well, that should be at a later date or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, even some potentials are different, so we really have no idea what's going to happen in the future. Like this, you just got to put like depending on everything I say. Again, on half of my comments, because I don't even know exactly what we're getting in the future, so it's kind of hard to guess. We just know what the timeline said.
Yep. And we didn't even have a timeline. Like, we didn't even have a roadmap until what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah,
something like that. But even with the roadmap, it doesn't make sense because it's all out of order.
They even like made a note recently about the shared ships, which we don't have at the moment with challenge mode. But they said yesterday on Twitter that once Battle Arena comes out, they will have those cross-server ships. But at the moment, we don't.
Okay, that's funny. We were talking about that yesterday.
I don't know if I'm gonna be into PvP when it comes out.
Depends what the rewards are.
Yeah, that's pretty much for me. I'll probably like just grind it on stream with people because it's something that people will probably want to do, and for the most part, it's probably going to be hard to do.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun though.
It's pretty dead on JP though. I never really bothered because it was so dead.
Yeah, it definitely is. It reminds me of like soccer or water polo. I don't know why. Just something about it, just running back and forth, taking a hit, running back and forth.
Well, it's kind of like the CM mode we got now, because I mean, no one does it on JP either, but people are doing it now in NA because it's new and fresh. So it'll be going probably for a little while.
Well, it's like Ultimate Quest on JP, where people don't care because the rewards are pretty bad.
I feel like a lot of people are going to have misconceptions about PvP when it drops, like assuming that they can take in their loadout, or that it's even going to be in map, being able to just take out other players. But it's basically
it's different.
It's so different. It's like, for anyone that doesn't know, basically you just start mining for a weapon. You get a random weapon with a set PA, and then you just go to town, and it's kind of like lots of cover and stuff, and playing on line of sights.
Yeah, you can like 2-hit people.
Basically it's Fortnite, but you don't permadeath.
Yeah, and there's no ring.
Yeah, exactly.
We say this, but we'll end up doing it. So
yeah,
there's that.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because like PSO2 isn't an open world game, so I feel like even if they did have PvP, that'd just give people like flashbacks to PSO1, where on Dreamcast you could get player killed and lose all your items. So I don't think that'd be a good experience.
It's like RuneScape.
Yeah, but in PSO it could
W2
happen everywhere. Like, if you died, you would lose everything in your bag on the Dreamcast. They removed that in the GameCube version, thankfully.
Yeah, episode 2 changed that. Like, if you didn't know about it, in Dreamcast episode 1, people could basically hack the game, go into your lobby, and there was a way that they would call it nulling, and they could basically destroy your save data. Or what they could do is they could go into a match with you and go to heal you, but they've reversed the healing, so it basically kills you instead. They called that Black Rester, and that got all fixed in version 2 of PSO1 on Dreamcast.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The GameCube version was 1 and 2, right? Episode 1 and 2?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it went PSO1, or just PSO, and they had version 2 came out like a year later, and then after that they had episode 1 and 2.
Then you had episode 3, which was a standalone game. And like I said, it was a card game for some reason, but I loved it.
Yep. I've never been a card game person, so that was like a skip for me, but I feel like it didn't get as much love as it should have.
No, a lot of people don't even know it exists. Like, it was
I
so
like card
weird.
games, I'm interested now.
Wasn't it there was like an evil side and there was also a light side or something like that?
Yeah, it was not really evil or light. It was like hero and don't remember what they were called, but they both played
You know what it was
differently.
called? It was called Arcs.
Really?
Yeah.
Because basically
Pretty
one
sure
of the
it was, 'cause-
one of the factions worked with like equipment cards, while the other faction was all summons, and it worked a lot more like Magic the Gathering, I guess.
I gotta try all these games now.
Definitely.
But
So
it's gonna sound out of context, but for anyone watching right now, if you like card games like this and feel like something you won't hear very often, try Coldcept if you're interested in this. It's a board game. It's Monopoly, but you mix it with Magic the Gathering, and instead of buying towns and stuff like that or houses, whatever, you actually just summon monsters for your spaces, and then people have if people land on your space, they have to either defeat your monster or pay you a fee.
So like Monopoly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But you have the option of fighting.
Nice.
I think I've heard that was like a PS2 game, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first one was on PS2.
And is it something that's come out recently? Like, there's another game that I always hear about in Japan, and it's like a board game. Like, is it Fortune Street or something like that?
That sounds like, yeah, it's probably what you're, yeah, it's probably that.
So does Coldcept get updates kind of like that, like Mario Party, like every few years?
No, Coldcept hasn't had a release since the 3DS with Coldcept Revolt, and I don't know when that was.
I actually picked up, like, I guess we've kind of like run out of what we were going to talk about with PSO2 at the moment, because there's not a whole lot going on at the moment outside of, you know, upgrading to the next weapon set or upgrading to the next unit set. A lot of people were actually like a little bit let down by Profound Darkness, actually, before we maybe talk about just general games or anything like that.
Sure.
Isn't there like other versions of it that'll come out as well?
Yes, there should be like a few more forms along with the new one that was just released.
Yeah, the one that was announced for the end of episode 6 on JP.
Oh, did we want to? You wanted to show that, didn't you, Nos?
Yeah,
We can
I wanted to show that. I'm pretty sure
Alright,
most people have seen it.
All right, I'm gonna pop that up in my window now. If we want to,
I'm gonna
I
do
guess,
that
play that.
as well.
I actually need to turn off my audio in game just so I don't ruin it.
So we're gonna play it on
Alright.
both of our streams, I guess, and
All right, you give me the play count then, Nos. This is for context. This is true Profound Darkness. If anyone doesn't want spoilers, it's going to be gone for about 2 minutes.
yep. So we're gonna
But
start.
you call it, Nos.
We're gonna start in 3, 2, 1, now.
So that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So that's coming out at the moment with is it episode 6 part 2 or part 3?
I don't know
I
exactly.
don't even know at this point.
I'm really not sure.
I think it's just the end of 6. I don't think they're going past that, so it's just I think they're just sticking with 2 or something like that at this point.
Yep.
But yeah, it looks amazing. Like a lot different areas, and there's different mechanics in each, and it looks like they kind of mixed and matched a few different boss fights we've already had with other FALs, like all together.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually looks, I don't know if it looks challenging, right, just from the looks of it, but I mean, it looks nice at least.
Yep, yep.
It looks really nice. It looks really, really nice. I'm so ready for it.
It reminds me of Sin from Final Fantasy X for some reason.
True. I'm a big fan of big bosses like this, where you have to go around like platforms and everything, and they have like specific weak spots that you have to target. I'm pretty excited.
That's what it looks like. It's gonna be a lot better than what we have now. It's gonna be a lot better than whatever the heck we just got. I told everyone was gonna be let down. Everyone was so hyped up for this PD, and it's ended up being nothing.
It's gonna be interesting. Like, did Japan have like episode 6 part 1 and part 2? Is that a thing, or is it just what North America's gonna have?
Not sure, to be honest, how they did that. Not really. Fortunately, I just rolled with the content as it came. I could look up. I could look it up real quick though.
So I guess I was also going to talk about while we've still got a little while to go. What other games we're playing at the moment? I know that I've gotten Nos into the Saga series apparently.
I still haven't started yet. Like, I need to finish Final Fantasy VI first. Like, I'm playing through Final Fantasy VI for the first time right now, guys. Like, I know that it's a sin. So many people told me just how great Final Fantasy VI is, and I had never played it. Even though people have kept telling me how great it is, they never really told me why it was so great. And I'm glad that now I can understand. I can understand why it's so great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I feel like 6, like, I don't want to sound like a boomer or anything like that, but I feel like a lot of what made 6 really good at the time was just how much professionalism was in that game compared to other JRPGs at the time.
It is true. That is. It's like if you go back to RPGs at that time, it was not like the stories were very bare bones and systems were not really that deep in my opinion either. So just having all of this, like all the system with the espers and that quote unquote deep story, like by today's standards the story is pretty bare bones still, but it was leagues ahead of anything else we ever got.
Absolutely. Like Final Fantasy IV is like a crowd favorite, but even then that's pretty standard as far as like the systems are pretty standard as far as Japanese RPGs went. I feel like it was like even Final Fantasy 3 did a whole lot more than Final Fantasy 4. And Final Fantasy 5 kind of carried on that tradition with the job system. Kind of wish that they had done that with Final Fantasy 4 because Final Fantasy 4 felt very safe in terms of systems compared to some of the other Final Fantasy entries. Final
Fantasy 4 is probably my least favorite of all the Final Fantasies, except maybe like some of the most modern stuff, like 13. But if
you don't like 13?
No, I don't like 13.
Oh wow.
You don't like 13? Sorry, was that it?
That's what he said.
My disliked Final Fantasy games are pretty polarizing. Like I don't like Final Fantasy 9. I don't like 10 or 13 as well. Not counting the MMO ones.
14 is amazing though. The MMO.
It's pretty good. Like as far as it goes, like I would say that and World of Warcraft are probably the top MMO, like actual MMO games at the moment, not including Phantasy Star because technically it's not an MMO.
Yeah, PSO is more like an action RPG with some online elements. It's not an MMO.
Yeah, I was on 14 a bit when Shadowbringers came out first, and I stayed there for a few months till I got bored of all the statics I was in.
Mm.
But I loved it. I always loved 14. I loved 11 at the time on PS2. I started with 10 and 10-2 actually. Then I went back into 7 because everyone told me how great it was. And then 9.
7 is
I
so
didn't like a lot of the first few, but everything past 10 I've really liked.
What about what were your first MMOs? Like the first 3 MMOs that both of you remember. How did you get into MMOs?
Oh boy. Who wants to go first? I'll go first, I guess.
Go for it.
Okay. So, my first MMO could have been RuneScape. It could have been. But instead, I was way too busy playing something called Tibia Online. It's a game from like 1992, I think. It's 2D. There's no attack animation even. Like, everybody at school was playing RuneScape, and I was just playing Tibia Online, where I got killed in the middle of town all the freaking time, and they would loot my entire body. It was amazing.
That sounds like Ultima Online, which I'll get to after you two have finished up.
Oh, I played some Ultima Online as well for a long time, but on private servers only.
I think RuneScape was definitely probably the second one. I think EverQuest was the first one. Then MU Online was probably the third one.
I remember Moo.
Yeah. And then there was, what did you just mention? It was Ultima. Yeah, I definitely did Ultima, and then some private servers in that, and a lot of Lineage too. But yeah, it was RuneScape, Mew, and EverQuest.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was in high school where like every single free-to-play MMO or like private servers, I would play them. All of them. Looking for the holy grail of the free-to-play MMORPG.
I definitely went through that phase as well. Like, my first MMO was Ultima Online. I played that a lot on like retail and I had the same issues where like people would loot your corpse. Like, people say World of Warcraft is hardcore like on vanilla, but compared to games like Ultima, Tibia, RuneScape, and stuff like that, it makes them look like babies games, basically. Like, in Ultima Online, people could go up to you, kill you, you'd basically leave your body and become a ghost, get teleported over to a healer, and then they could literally cut up your body, steal all your items, and then like even enemies could steal items off your corpse. I remember
They cutting you up?
Yeah, like you can cut up someone's body with, like, you just double click on your sword and then double click on their body, and then suddenly it's all cut up on the floor.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, so there was that. I played Ragnarok Online for a little bit as well, like mainly the betas and Maple Story.
Maple Story.
Those are the main. Lineage 2 I did play a lot on private servers. Also Rose Online, I played the beta of that. And Fly for fun.
Yeah, I played Fly a whole lot.
Played everything you guys have mentioned so far over the years.
What else is there? There was like Silk Road, Repeals.
Ion, Blade and Soul. Blade and Soul was like much older actually. So like before that, I guess would be like Shaya was one. There's a lot of different ones. Blanking on the name. Asian MMOs.
I played Silk Road. I remember that was pretty good.
City of Heroes. I played that for like 5 minutes. I didn't play EverQuest though. That's like the one I'd never played in my life.
Same.
Great times.
And then there was the weird stuff like Pangia and like the golf game and Drift City.
Don't know those.
So Pangia was like a mini, like it was somewhere between mini golf and normal golf, and it was anime style. And then there was Drift City, which was basically just souped up cars drifting, but somehow it had raid bosses in it too. So
I remember for a while.
Someone mentioned Repels too.
Repels. Yeah. I never got a chance to play that one. I really wanted to.
Oh, Guns Online, but that wasn't an MMO. That was a shooter, but like that.
Guns the Duel?
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember Butterfly slashing with that?
Oh yeah, man. You gotta climb walls with that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Those are like the main MMOs. I mean, I feel like a lot of us tended to play the same games over the years. And it's only really been like recently I haven't really paid attention to MMOs because there's just been so many of them, and I feel like I've been burnt so many times in the past.
Yeah, I completely skipped over Terra when I probably shouldn't have because it looks amazing, but
yeah,
I just was playing Blade and Soul with the BDO at the time. Mm-hmm. Oh, Cabal Online.
Cabal.
Hey man, that was awesome.
I remember playing this way too much and like training my skills for like full weekends at a time.
On dummies, yeah.
Oh my god.
Actually,
put that time in.
Did you two ever play Ragnarok Online 2?
No.
A little bit.
Did you play the beta?
No.
So the beta was completely different to the game they released, and it had a really awesome, I don't know if they still use the soundtrack in the actual release, but it had a completely different graphic style, which looked so much better. The UI was so much better. And they also had this feature where back then we all had crappy computers, right? You could go into a town, you could click a button, and it would hide every player character so that your frame rate would go back up. I thought that was pretty cool.
A lot of games I had to do that in, actually. Oh, I forgot about Guild Wars.
Yeah, I played Guild Wars.
Didn't play
the
that
first one.
Yeah.
I only played the vanilla version of it. I didn't play like Nightfall and all those weird expansions they had.
Oh man, Chaos in my chat mentioning S4 League. That was my jam for
What is
a long
S4
time.
League? What is S4 League?
It was kind of like an arena battle kind of thing. Kind of felt like
I never played it.
I guess it could have felt a little bit like Power Stone, I guess,
Okay, yeah.
but not
Oh,
really.
there was some other weird games, like was it Dungeon Fighter Online, and there was a fighting game as well that I really wanted to play, but it would always played like absolute trash. I can't even remember what that one was called.
No,
I
there
remem-
was.
I remember a fighting game that came out. It was online, and like you had to play matches to unlock new moves and stuff like that. I never really got into it because it was kind of garbage.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. But outside of that, like, I actually bought yesterday the new I can't remember the name of. There's this new Sword Art Online game that just come out.
Alicization or whatever it says.
Yeah, it's got such a weird name. Is it Alicization
Yeah.
Tourist or something
It's
like
open
that? I
world
got that.
though.
Yeah, that looks cool. I like the look of it, so I bought it.
Yeah, it's got a decent leveling system and whatnot. A lot of places to explore from what I've seen.
What else are you two playing at the moment as well?
I know that Nos and I both got into the Genshin Impact closed beta.
Yeah.
I've been binging that for quite a bit. I've almost burnt myself out on it, but I've really enjoyed it so far. I really wasn't playing much besides like PSO2 and Warframe though before that.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like, I'm always busy. Recently, I'm taking kind of like not really a break, but I'm taking things a little more slow because I've been extremely stressed and I keep getting sick because of it. So now I'm just taking a step back, and I've been playing like Final Fantasy VI, Genshin Impact, because I got into the beta. I should probably make a beginner's guide for that very soon, before beta stops and I don't get access to recording footage anymore.
Yep.
But otherwise, no. PSO2 is taking all of my time.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. Like, I really don't get time to play a lot of other games. The time that I am spending not playing PSO is either watching TV shows with my partner, or like just doing boring housework stuff, or updating assets in the background for stream and video, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, the fact that I'm juggling my full-time job on top of like my heavily edited videos, and I have to play the game on top of it. Busy schedule.
Yeah. It was so much easier for me when the PC beta wasn't out yet, or just PC wasn't launched at all, I should say. And I was just on JP, and I had like, it wasn't a GM account, but it felt like it would be a GM account because I just had everything on that character that I would ever possibly need to make a video. So it was really nice. Now I'm broke over there, but I mean, it was nice that I didn't have to like level. But now that I'm on NA, I have to juggle leveling and making videos.
What you were saying before about making class guides and wanting to know about translations and stuff like that, the main reason why I've held off of doing class guides, I would have done them already, but A, I didn't feel confident enough in doing all the classes just yet, and B, was that I'm waiting on like the crafted PAs. Like, that's pretty much all we're waiting for to have our complete classes, right? Is just the crafted PAs.
Yep.
So I'll probably like consider doing that right now, like once that drops in, you know.
I don't think I'll ever make class guides other than like Summoner, because it works differently from everything else. It's just not my style.
Go for it.
I don't like telling people how to play their class. It's like, I'm really against that.
Yep.
I mean, if you want to do it, it's fine. But for me, myself, telling other people how to play their game is not something I want to do.
I think all I ever want to do is just make sure people understand, like, obviously the basics, no pun intended, but like, and just go from there. So once people understand that, they can make their own opinions and their own assessments and their own builds after that, as long as they understand what everything is about the class. So that's all I have to worry about, really.
I think that's probably what I'm going to focus on as well. But I just want to make sure it's like, here's everything you can get out of the class, and then here are some links to builds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's usually what I do when I talk about a class.
There's only so much you can really say about it, because things just are what they are. There's just numbers, and some combinations are better than others, and it's up to you if you want to use them or not.
The other thing as well is that I'm always thinking about evergreen content, and how often are those classes going to change once we put out a guide is my biggest fear.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to do certain things.
Because basically, you're going to end up getting a lot of comments a year down the track where it's completely different now, and people will be like, well, actually, you do this, and it's like, okay, dude, this video is from like 1920.
Yeah, people don't look at dates either. Someone in my chat is saying like that making a video like this about classes is like suggestions for people to pick and choose. But trust me, people don't come to your video to pick and choose. Like I keep getting comments on my video about extending your PSC bursts because I didn't mention that specific way of doing it with using a team with only launchers. And I'm just explaining how to extend PSC burst. I don't care about launchers, and also honestly, even if I wanted to talk about launchers, I would not have made this video because I think that leveling with launchers is boring as
It is. I can't even do AQs with launchers much anymore. It's so boring.
It's boring.
So I did the progression for weapons and units video, and I had to put in the launcher stuff because I knew someone was going to come in and go, well, do you know that you can use launchers like the Sigma bastard? You can use that. It's a good tactic if you don't want to play classes, but I would rather take the time myself to learn the classes myself.
I'd rather play the game instead of cheesing it, you know?
Like, there's a time and a place, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's not needed.
If I had any class, I would have just glossed over and done like the what's his name? The dude from Happy Gilmore switch, like skipping forward would be Braver. But that's the class I did not want to play.
Oh man, I can't stand Braver. I'm sorry, all of you Braver mains. I can't stand it. Same thing for Hunter. I'm sorry. I'm allowed to not like classes, okay? I'm sorry.
That's a flaming outrage.
I know, right?
I actually like Hunter because it's no brain. It's
That's
just
wicked
like,
easy.
I find it so freaking slow.
Are you using Guilty Break?
Yeah.
Have you seen my sweaty runaround video for my Hunter yet?
I
No.
I did it as a joke. I'll link it later.
No, I don't watch sweaty content.
No, it's just me running from one end of a map to another really fast as Hunter.
Okay.
And like breaking my shift and spacebar.
I mean, moving around is not a problem. It's just hitting things and oh well.
Oh, well, that's what you mean. It'll be better when we get the crafted text for Hunter.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you'll get the one that hit to stab a guy and it makes your sword all glowy and you attack differently.
The thing is as well, like someone's mentioned in chat, people doing this, some of them want to wait until they're 75 to learn, but it's like you're going through the easiest content and it's going to be the easiest time to learn how to actually level, like to play those classes when you're like level 5 or whatever, right? Compared to like 75 when you're expected to hold your own. What about favorite classes? What are your favorite classes and weapon category as well for them?
Well, for me, it's definitely Gunner with TMGs. And then in second place, I think it would be Summoner, just because it's no brain. And whenever I just want to play, I just put on Summoner, I do my stuff without any effort, and then I log off.
Yep.
But if I want to play seriously, I play Gunner with TMGs.
I think if we're talking about all the classes, I like Phantom a lot, and I have loved it since it came out on JP. But I've always loved Bouncer a lot too. And those two have mostly been the only ones I've played in a while.
Yeah, I'm actually liking Bouncer more now that I've picked up Soaring Blades.
Oh, Bouncer is great with Soaring Blades. I hate the boots, but Soaring Blades?
I think for me, it was for the longest time Hunter, but now that I've got an Elder Rifle Ranger, that's quickly become my favorite because it's literally just over the shoulder view and don't even think, just hold buttons.
True.
That's pretty much it. But other than that, like I really like Gunner, but I feel like because I leveled that at the start of NA, I've really forgotten how that played. But I had a lot of fun leveling that. Fighter, I'm really liking Knuckles Fighter as well at the moment. Just zapping around with Heartless Impact and then, you know, doing the ground pound and stuff like that.
Yeah, Knuckles.
Actually making a Knuckles video right now.
They're slept on. I feel like Heartless Impact should pretty much just be the fighter skill for it, right? Or the weapon skill, because without that weapon is basically useless. Would you recommend Black putting on the Knuckles Pursuit ring for that as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know if the ring's out yet, but it combines like the twin daggers and the Knuckle Pursuit and like one more too. So that's really helpful. Like it just helps you get around so you don't have to use your PA to get around. So it saves you on that. But yeah, I'm actually gonna have a whole video up for Knuckles soon.
Amazing. Look out for that then.